But could we be headed for a summer rerun? That is just one of the questions we asked House Majority Leader Eric Cantor and Congressman Tim Scott. Gentlemen, nice to see you both.
Thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Leader Cantor. Tell me, what's going on in this room? It's very crowded.
Well, what's going on is Tim Scott's leadership is on display. You know, the freshman member from South Carolina saying, revitalize America through increased entrepreneurialism. That's what today is about. It's all about free market economics and opportunity for everybody.
All right, so who's here? I mean, give me an idea of the group.
Well, first we start with Eric Cantor. He's a fantastic leader in the House. That's a good deal. And we have Carly Farina, who's a former executive HP, was here. Patrick Doyle, the CEO of Domino's. We have David Cody, the CEO of Honeywell. We'll hear later on from Jay Walker, the founder of Priceline.com. We also have the Bard Pharmaceutical former CEO, Lily Pio, speaking as well. So we have a panel of experts, and then we have entrepreneurs, small businesses, trucking companies, real estate companies, restaurant chains, small companies from South Carolina and Colorado throughout the nation, representing the cross-section of the business community. It's really looking for a way to get government out of the way so they can go back to creating jobs.
All right, I take it's not just about lunch and talking. There must be some particular goal. What are you seeking to do with this group?
Well, you know, what I see as the goal is in Congress, you know, there's a lot of differences here in Washington on the part of both parties, and we're trying to come together and actually get something done for the people at home who are frustrated because they don't see a better economy coming back. And the best thing that we can do is work to create that environment where entrepreneurs will be willing to go take a risk again. And, you know, the reality is too many people are unemployed in this country, but a lot of those laid-off employees actually may want to become employers or entrepreneurs. And the question for us as policymakers is, how do we go about making it easier for that to happen?
All right. One of the big questions I think small business people have, and Americans do as well, citizens who might work for somebody else, is, are taxes going to go up to meet the debt problems and the deficit problems?
You know, I think Tim and I would both tell you, we don't think it's a good idea to raise taxes on anybody, especially in a recession like we're in.
Anybody at all?
Anybody at all. Raising taxes means you want Washington to spend the money, not the person who earns it. And right now, we don't have enough people investing capital. We don't have enough people with confidence to say, hey, I want to invest. And we got to create that environment. You don't create that environment by raising taxes.
Is there any way you'd vote for a tax increase? Because the Bush tax cuts are supposed to expire at the end of the year. Any way that you'd vote for it?
I would not. I mean, if you're looking for a tax increase, look no further than Obamacare. They have $500 billion, $500 billion in new taxes starting in January 2013. The question is, how do we grow the economy when legislation's already been passed by former Congresses will put us in a position where we have less money to do that?
Scott brings up the national health care, the Obamacare. What happens? I'm going to give you two scenarios. Supreme Court strikes down the health care law at the end of June, or that it doesn't strike it down. I mean, give the American people a little bit of a hint of what we can expect.
Well, I don't think there's any question. If the Supreme Court strikes down any part of the law or the law itself in total, I think it's a real statement about the president's agenda, his leadership, and I think it does speak volumes to the country about this is what you get. And what we think is Washington-based health care is not the answer. What the answer is to empower patients and their doctors to make the decision for themselves. And what we want to do is to provide more choices for patients, whether it's choices with insurance coverage or insurance of which doctor, choice of which doctor to go to. And so there's a very stark difference of the kind of health care that we believe is best suited for America versus the Washington-based health care of the president.
I think most people think that health care, because it's new, whether you like it or not, there's some element of chaos in it. If the Supreme Court, though, decides on June 30th that it's unconstitutional, July 1st we have a different type of chaos and uncertainty. Any idea in terms of, you know, is there going to be some health care program coming out of the Republican leadership?
Well, I think we have always stood for this sort of patient-centered health care. And one thing that you will see if the Supreme Court does not strike the bill down is we will act affirmatively to repeal Obamacare, and we will continue to advocate for that because it is the wrong solution for working families, small businesses, or individuals who want better health care at an affordable cost.
Right. You're a former small businessman yourself before you came to Congress. I'm curious that if you're opposed to raising taxes, in light of the fact that our debt is growing, what's your solution for at least addressing the debt? Is it simply cutting spending? Because there are a lot of people across the country, they like it when you cut somebody else's stuff, not their own.
Of course. From an entrepreneur's perspective, you have to realize that lower have an inverse relationship with reality. Basically, if you lower taxes, you get more revenue to the government. employment, and you also get more revenue in the economy. So if we're going to grow our economy, we're looking for an economy that's on fire. It happens by lowering taxes, eliminating regulations, and putting business owners back in charge. As a business owner, if I knew that my taxes were coming down and it's going to be permanent, what I would do is invest in more capital equipment and I'd hire more employees because it would help me create more profit. So the long story short is lower taxes means more revenues to the Treasury and in the economy.
All right, what if you're a businessman and you don't know what Congress is going to do because there's so much upheaval, we have an election coming up. What would you be doing right now about your business?
Well, today what we see happening, we have $2.5 trillion of revenue sitting on the sidelines. Corporations are too afraid because there's no certainty in the market. So what do? Nothing. They don't buy anything and they don't hire anyone. The challenge of this economy is that there's so little certainty, long-term certainty, that most big businesses and entrepreneurs like myself, they don't invest in this market.
Right. Impinging on sort of the entrepreneur and jobs is sort of this overriding problem with our debt, our nation's debt, and the debt ceiling. We're probably going to come up on another showdown at OK Corral, right, on this debt ceiling?
Well, I mean, what I think we went through last year was sort of evidence that the two sides disagree on two issues, at least, health care and taxes. And what we have always said, fix the problem, stop digging the hole deeper, and that's going to lift a tremendous burden off the economy. We put forward a solution as to how we believe you can fix the problem on the budget, and unfortunately the President and his party have not countered. If they disagree with ours, which they continue to say, at least put your solution on the table and let's talk about it. Because I think that most of us and most Americans are asking, why can't you just be reasonable and set aside differences and try and come together? Everybody thinks America ought to pay its bills. And so there's never a sort of sense that someone wanted to take the country off the cliff. What we're trying to do is solve the problem so we can get the entrepreneurs of the country back in the game again.
Well, Congressman Scott says if he, right now with the uncertainty, if he were back in private business, he'd do a sort of wait and see what happens. I'm curious, though, is that I assume that the Republican Party is waiting to see who's elected president. I mean, that has a big impact on you, right?
It's a huge consequence to the country as to who's elected.
But in the meantime, though, it's now, you know, we're approaching June, and the election isn't until November, and we're running up the clock. Is anything being done? Are you talking to President Obama, and are you all looking at this debt ceiling problem? Because it's there. I mean, it's going to come right back. It's going to come up soon, probably right after the election.
Greta, I think what we ought to do is put ourselves in the shoes of the small businessman or woman and what they're thinking right now. And what they're wondering is whether their taxes are going to go up. Working families are wondering whether their tax rates are going to go up, too. And so the House is going to act with a resolute fashion and say, we don't believe taxes...
What's resolute fashion? How fast is that?
We are, within the next month or so, we're going to have a bill on the floor, probably in July, that to say there's not going to be any tax increases on anybody. Now is not the time to raise...
Meaning after January. I mean, you're talking about the Bush tax cuts?
It's the 0103 rates. They will, by operation of law, go up unless Congress acts affirmatively. We're going to act this summer to make sure that people know if they don't want their taxes going up, they're going to follow the Republican plan because otherwise they're going to go up.
All right, one final question. How's the new job? Is it what you expected?
You know, it certainly is. It's been exciting in many ways, depressing in other ways. I'll tell you what, we live in an amazing country, and we have an amazing future if we do the right things, and Leader Cantor is talking about some of those things right now.
Gentlemen, thank you both.
Greta, thank you.